You live inside a swirl, a spiral called the Milky Way, quietly cradled in a dark sea of galaxies. But far beyond your solar system, beyond the glittering neighborhood of your stars, lies a shape you cannot see with your eyes alone. Yet it is the next great destination for everything you've ever known. The Andromeda Galaxy. It hangs like a dream on the edge of your sky, a ghostly smear between the stars of Cassiopeia and Pegasus. If you could stretch your arms across the void, you would find it about 2.5 million light-years away, a number so large, your mind can only whisper it in metaphors. That light you see from Andromeda tonight left before humans invented language, before cities, before fire, and yet that light arrives still, silent, steady, undeniable. Andromeda is larger than the Milky Way, with over 1 trillion stars. Some are old red giants, pulsing like ember hearts. Others are newborns, flickering in blue nurseries where gravity weaves light into matter. There's structure here, lanes of gas, rivers of dust, pockets of potential. But there's also motion. Slow, silent motion. Because Andromeda is not static. It's coming, drifting closer, like 2 ancient whales who will someday meet in the deep ocean of night. Astronomers tell you that in about 4.5 billion years, Andromeda and the Milky Way will collide not like crashing stones, but like ghostly clouds merging. Stars won't smash, they'll swirl. Your night sky will stretch with new constellations as 2 galaxies become one. But you don't need to wait for that collision to feel the beauty of Andromeda, because right now, as you lie still, it sends you photons, tiny cosmic messages, from another world, another age, light that has traveled across the darkness just to touch your eye. So breathe slowly and let your mind drift outward, past your sun, past the moons of Jupiter, past the outer edge of your local bubble, and keep going. Because tonight, we'll visit the nearest spiral galaxy to our own, not with a rocket, but with wonder. You are drifting now, adrift in thought, in starlight, in scale. Because the moment you start thinking about galaxies, your everyday worries begin to shrink. The dishes in the sink, the unopened emails, even the aches in your knees, all of them fall away, like grains of sand sliding off the hull of a ship lifting into space. You are no longer tethered to your house or your town or even your planet. You're somewhere else, somewhere wider, somewhere impossibly calm. Andromeda is the nearest major galaxy to the Milky Way, and yet it still lies more than 2,500,000 light-years away. That's the kind of distance your brain doesn't measure in steps or flights, or even rocket burns. It measures in light, which means the light you're seeing from Andromeda tonight, if you've ever seen that hazy, soft smudge with your naked eye, is ancient. It left long before the continents settled into their modern shapes, before your species even had ancestors to watch it. This galaxy, often called Messier 31, is one of the most beautiful objects ever catalogued in the sky. You can see it, if your night is dark enough, without any telescope. A pale oval, tilted just enough to suggest structure, a quiet ellipse floating in a universe filled with fire, and yet what you see is only a ghost of what it truly is. Because Andromeda contains over 1 trillion stars, that is, 1 million millions each, a sun of its own, most with solar systems, most with planets, many with moons. Pause for a moment. 1 trillion stars. If you were to count them 1 per second, it would take you over 31,000 years. And that's just this one galaxy. There are likely 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. The numbers pile up so high, they begin to feel like a form of poetry, a lullaby of scale. Andromeda is part of our cosmic neighborhood, what astronomers call the local group. It's the biggest member of this group, even slightly larger than the Milky Way. It has satellite galaxies of its own, including Messier 32 and Messier 110 tiny companions tucked near its luminous disk, like pearls next to a planet. The galaxy itself is a barred spiral, just like our own. That means it has those elegant arms sweeping outward from a central bulge. But those arms aren't just decoration. They are rivers of gas, dust, and stars' highways of gravity, along which whole solar systems swirl. At the center of Andromeda, there is something strange, something familiar. A supermassive black hole, more than 100 million times the mass of your sun. It sleeps now, mostly quiet, but around it, heat, pressure, spin, a cosmic engine humming in low power mode. You may wonder why Andromeda is coming toward us, why this neighboring galaxy is on a collision course with the Milky Way. And the answer is that space is not just expanding, it's alive with motion. Not everything moves away from everything else. Some things, like us and Andromeda, are pulled together by gravity. Over billions of years, the gravity between the Milky Way and Andromeda has drawn them closer. Right now, they are hurtling toward each other at a speed of over 110 kilometers per second. That's nearly 250,000 miles per hour. And still, it will take 4.5 billion years for them to meet. That collision will not be destructive in the way you might imagine. The stars in both galaxies are spaced so far apart that they will pass through each other like mist. It's like colliding 2 clouds made of fireflies. The bugs don't hit. They just dance in each other's paths. But the shapes of the galaxies will change. The spiral arms will warp. Gas clouds will compress. Star formation will ignite. And eventually, from that graceful chaos, a new galaxy will be born. Scientists already have a name for it. Andromeda, a hybrid child of cosmic parents. But tonight, you are far from that future. You are right here, listening, breathing, resting. And Andromeda is glowing in your mind, like a lantern hung in deep time. Let's soften the focus even further. Did you know that Andromeda has been known since ancient times? The Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi described it in the 10th century as a little cloud in his Book of Fixed Stars. But long before telescopes, long before the scientific method, people noticed it. They pointed to it, wondered about it, wove it into myths. It became part of the legend of Andromeda, the chained princess rescued by Perseus in Greek mythology, forever trapped in the stars. We named the galaxy for her, and that name, Andromeda, is soft. It carries both the myth and the math, the tragedy and the truth. A galaxy made of trillions of suns, holding its secrets in silence. So tonight, let go. Let the numbers drift into lullabies. Let the speed of galaxies and the cold beauty of interstellar clouds become the background hum of your imagination. Let it be quiet here. Let it be large. Let it be slow. Andromeda is coming, but not for a long time. You have billions of years. You have this moment. You have this stillness. There is something quietly magnificent about knowing the shape of something you will never touch. That is what astronomers have done with Andromeda. From a dot in the sky, they have reconstructed a masterpiece. A grand, swirling cathedral of stars, all without ever getting closer than 2.5 million light years. It's a reminder that human curiosity is not limited by hands or ships or rockets. It expands by light, by patience, by listening to what the photons whisper. And what they whisper is this: Andromeda is a spiral galaxy with structure, a disk, a bulge, and a halo, each one telling a different story in a different kind of light. Start with the disk. That's the part most people picture, the glowing arms that wind outward from the center like frozen whirlpools. But those arms are not static. They are waves, density waves, regions of slightly higher gravitational attraction that compress gas and dust as they move. That compression triggers star formation, lighting up the spiral arms like candles on a carousel. Inside, these arms are blue giants, young stars that burn bright and live fast. Massive stars that live only millions of years before going supernova, short lives on cosmic timescales, but brilliant ones. Between the arms, the story slows. Here lie older stars, cooler ones, redder, settled. Andromeda's disk is wide, stretching about 220,000 light-years across more than double the diameter of the Milky Way. It rotates once every 250 million years. You could ride that spin in your imagination, a gentle turn, measured in epochs, not hours. Closer to the center is the bulge, a tightly packed sphere of stars surrounding the supermassive black hole. These stars are old, very old. Some are nearly as ancient as the universe itself. They move in orbits shaped not like circles but ellipses, crisscrossing one another in dense ballet. The black hole at the core, dark, invisible, weighs in at more than 100 million times the mass of your sun. It does not shine, but its gravity sculpts everything around it. And beyond the visible disk lies something stranger, the halo, a ghostly cloud of globular clusters and rogue stars that orbits far outside the galaxy's main body. These clusters are ancient, 13 billion years old in some cases, and they tell stories of galactic mergers. Andromeda has grown by eating other galaxies. Like cosmic tree rings, these halo stars preserve the memory of past collisions, absorbed systems, lost worlds, and some of these stars, they don't belong to Andromeda at all. They are travelers, interlopers, stars that passed too close, got caught, and never escaped. The structure of Andromeda is more than beautiful. It is instructive, because by studying it, astronomers can learn about the Milky Way, our home. We cannot see our own galaxy from the outside, but we can look at Andromeda like a mirror, a sister, and in doing so, we learn more about what we are. Andromeda has a double nucleus, two bright points near its center, orbiting around a common center of mass. For a long time, this puzzled scientists. Was it a binary black hole, a double core, a lensing illusion? Eventually, it was revealed to be an artifact of how stars move in the bulge, an eccentric disk of stars, whose orbit causes the light to cluster into two apparent centers. It's a reminder that what you see is not always what is, and that patience and mathematics can reveal deeper truths than the eye alone. Andromeda is also unusually dusty. It contains a large amount of interstellar medium, the gas and dust between stars, which acts as both a cradle and a veil. In the infrared, you can see through that dust, and what you see is incredible. Star-forming regions glowing like coals inside a fireplace, nebulae, filaments, supernova remnants, all of it simmering in the slow, silent workshop of time. That dust, by the way, is made of the same elements you are: carbon, oxygen, iron, the leftovers of dead stars. You are, as Carl Sagan once said, made of star stuff. And galaxies like Andromeda are the factories that make it. Supernovae explode and scatter their elements. Nebulae condense and form new stars. Planets coalesce. And over time, those atoms gather into things that breathe, think, wonder, you. But for all this activity, Andromeda is not in a rush. Its stars move slowly. Its arms rotate in spirals you cannot see change. If you watched for 10,000 years, you might notice a slight drift, a pattern moving like fog on a mountain slope. And yet, change is happening. In the last few years, the Hubble Space Telescope and Gaia mission have measured the motions of Andromeda's stars with extraordinary precision. They found that the galaxy is on a nearly head-on collision course with the Milky Way. The odds of individual stars colliding are low, but the chaos will be beautiful. Tidal tails will stretch, galaxies will warp, and in the end, a new elliptical galaxy will emerge, calm, enormous, rich in stars, a quiet result of a noisy beginning. You won't be there to see it, but knowing it will happen is strangely comforting, like watching two leaves drift together on a pond. Slow inevitability, gravitational poetry. So tonight, rest in that knowing, that you live in a moment between moments, that you are here while galaxies pass one another in slow motion across the darkness, that you are part of something that moves in rhythms deeper than dreams. Close your eyes now. Let the present dissolve. Let the stars rewind. Because before Andromeda became the luminous swirl you know today, it was something else entirely. A whisper in the dark. A collection of hydrogen atoms collapsing into their first stars. To understand Andromeda, you must go back not millions, but billions of years, back to when the universe itself was still in its childhood, when time moved differently and galaxies were just beginning to learn how to shine. Andromeda, like all galaxies, began with gravity. It started as a small overdensity, a slightly denser patch of matter floating in the early universe. Just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, that patch began to collapse under its own weight. Gas flowed inward, dark matter provided scaffolding, and as the density increased, stars began to ignite, not slowly, violently. The first stars in Andromeda were giants, blue, massive, short-lived. They burned fast and died young, many in spectacular supernova explosions that seeded their surroundings with the first heavy elements. Iron, oxygen, carbon, the ingredients for everything that would come after. Those explosions didn't just light the darkness, they stirred it. They pushed gas into motion, triggered more collapse, more stars, more light. A chain reaction of brilliance. In those early days, Andromeda was chaotic. It didn't look like a spiral. It looked like a war zone. Clouds crashing into clouds. Starbursts lighting up whole regions. The gravity of dark matter halos pulling in more material from the cosmic web. Those great filaments of invisible mass that stretch between galaxies like the bones of the universe. And as the chaos settled, Andromeda began to grow. It began to merge. Because galaxies are not born fully formed, they are assembled, piece by piece, through a long and messy history of collisions. Smaller galaxies, drawn by gravity, spiraled into Andromeda and became part of it. Their stars were absorbed. Their black holes sank toward the center. Their identities erased. This process is still happening. Right now, even as you listen, Andromeda is swallowing at least one small dwarf galaxy. You can see its remains, a faint ribbon of stars in the halo, a scar of history still glowing. This is what galaxies do. They cannibalize. They grow by eating. But the echoes of those meals never quite fade. In Andromeda's halo, astronomers have found the fossil record of ancient mergers, streams of stars moving in sync, like rivers frozen mid-flow. Some of these stars are so old, they may have formed before the Milky Way existed, 13 billion years ago, before Earth, before the Sun. Think of that. Light from a star, born before your solar system, is now drifting into your telescopes, encoded with the history of Andromeda's ancient collisions. It's like finding a family tree written in flame, but not all of Andromeda's past is violent. Some of it is delicate, subtle. The rotation of the galaxy today, those great spiral arms sweeping out across space, is the result of angular momentum preserved across time. The direction in which the gas originally collapsed, the spin of the dark matter halo, the accumulation of stars and dust, all of it layered into a vast, slow-spinning record. And like a vinyl record, Andromeda plays the music of its past in orbits. Every turn, every spiral, is a memory. The double nucleus you learned about earlier, that strange, off-center glow near Andromeda's heart, may also be a fossil. Some astronomers believe it's the remnant of a long-ago merger with another galactic core. The two black holes may have merged already, or they may still be circling one another deep inside the central bulge, caught in a gravitational embrace that takes millions of years to tighten. And then there are the stars themselves. Every star in Andromeda carries within it the chemical signature of its birth. By analyzing their spectra, the light they emit, astronomers can tell how old they are, what elements they contain, and what kind of environment they were born into. This is stellar archaeology, and it reveals a fascinating truth. Andromeda had at least two major epochs of star formation. One occurred more than 10 billion years ago, a period of rapid growth triggered by early mergers. The second, about 2 billion years ago, may have been caused by another collision, possibly with a galaxy similar in size to the Large Magellanic Cloud. These epochs lit up Andromeda like a city at festival time, with whole regions of stars being born in waves. Andromeda also has stars that don't quite belong, blue stragglers, stars that look too young, too bright for their location. These may be the result of stellar collisions or binary mergers. In either case, they're signs of a galaxy that is still active, still complex, still evolving. Even its dust tells a story. Infrared surveys have mapped cool lanes of interstellar material curling through the spiral arms, places where stars will one day form. These dark ribbons are not just leftovers. They are futures waiting to ignite. In 100 million years, they may host new suns, new planets, maybe even new life. But tonight, they are just shadows, silent witnesses to time. So here you are, lying still, listening to the ancient biography of a galaxy too large to hold in your mind. 1 trillion stars, a history 13 billion years deep, a future still unfolding, all of it drifting closer to you every second. Let it be slow, let it be wide, let it be quiet. Andromeda remembers everything, the stars it made, the galaxies it devoured, the orbits it has traced for eons. And now, for a moment, you remember too. You have always lived inside a galaxy, but tonight, you are outside it, drifting, watching from above. And from here, in this imagined stillness, you begin to see it all, the Milky Way below you, Andromeda approaching, and beyond them both, the vast, web-like lattice of the universe itself. This is where Andromeda belongs, not as a solitary spiral, but as part of a greater structure, a quiet note in the cosmic symphony. Andromeda is not just near us, it is our twin. For millions of years, it has mirrored our own existence from afar, a spiral like ours, a size like ours, a dance like ours. But that similarity is no coincidence. Galaxies like these tend to form together, clustered by the quiet magnetism of gravity into families. Our particular family is called the local group. The local group is a collection of more than 100 galaxies, bound loosely by their mutual gravitational pull. Most of them are tiny dwarf galaxies, the quiet whispers of the galactic world, but two giants dominate the group, the Milky Way and Andromeda, you and your sister, each with its own halo of satellite galaxies, like children orbiting elders, and both on a slow-motion collision course, set to meet in about 4.5 billion years. Together, the local group stretches across 10 million light-years of space. But even this is small, just a dot in the next larger structure, the Virgo supercluster, a sprawling network of galaxy groups and clusters stretching across 110 million light-years. Within it are thousands of galaxies, each with its own history, each glowing in silence. And it doesn't stop there. Zoom out farther, and you'll begin to see something astonishing. The cosmic web. The universe is not evenly filled with galaxies. Instead, they are arranged in vast filaments, threads of stars and dark matter, woven together by the invisible hand of gravity. Between these threads lie immense voids, spaces where almost nothing exists. Andromeda, the Milky Way, the local group, they all occupy one tiny intersection in this universal tapestry. This web was shaped by sound. In the first few 100,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe was filled with plasma, hot, dense, and full of pressure waves. These waves left behind faint imprints over and under densities that became the scaffolding of everything that followed. And Andromeda formed along one of those lines, like a bead of condensation on a glass thread. It's humbling and beautiful and deeply relaxing to know that even galaxies follow patterns older than themselves. But there's something else. Something stranger. The universe is expanding, and that expansion is accelerating. Galaxies beyond a certain distance are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. That is not a violation of physics, it's space itself stretching. As a result, there are galaxies we will never see. Galaxies whose light will never reach us, because the distance between us grows faster than photons can close it. The cosmic horizon, Andromeda, though she is still within reach, she is coming closer, and when she arrives, she will still be shaped by the larger rhythms of the universe. Astronomers use standard candles to measure distances. One of the most important of these is the Cepheid variable, a type of star that pulses in brightness at a regular interval. The rate of that pulsing tells you how bright the star actually is, and by comparing it to how bright it appears, you can calculate how far away it must be. Andromeda is full of Cepheid variables. In fact, it was the first galaxy in which Cepheids were identified by Edwin Hubble in the 1920 seconds, and that discovery changed everything. Until that moment, people thought the Milky Way was the universe, that the fuzzy objects in the sky were just clouds or nearby clusters. But when Hubble measured the Cepheids in Andromeda, he realized they were far too faint to be nearby. They had to be over 2 million light-years away. That meant Andromeda was its own island universe, a galaxy in its own right. The universe, suddenly, was much larger than anyone had dared to imagine. And it was Andromeda that revealed it. That's your sister galaxy, not just in shape and motion, but in history. The place that cracked open the heavens, that revealed the true scale of the cosmos. It is more than a neighboring spiral. It is a key. Now, when you lie under a dark sky and see that smudge of light if you can, you're looking not just at a collection of stars, but at the beginning of our understanding of the universe. The first great leap beyond the Milky Way. The first whisper that the universe was not small or local or tame. Andromeda helped us see farther, to dream wider, to know our place, and to realize how much more there was beyond it. In the far future, when our two galaxies merge, the view from Earth, or what remains of it, will be dazzling. The night sky will be filled with streams of stars, arcs of glowing gas, constellations redrawn. For a time, it will be chaos, but eventually, the stars will settle, orbits will stabilize. A new elliptical galaxy will emerge, quieter than before, richer, fuller, and in its archives of light will remain the evidence of what once was. Two galaxies, dancing across time and space, brought together by gravity and patience. So let yourself drift now, not in fear, in awe, because the more you zoom out, the more elegant everything becomes. Andromeda is not alone, neither are you. You are made of atoms born in stars. That much you've heard before, but it bears repeating, especially tonight, as your thoughts drift toward Andromeda, because every time you imagine its glowing arms, its vast halo, its cold core, you are also imagining a place that made parts of you, not directly, not causally, but cosmically, philosophically, truthfully. The atoms in your blood once passed through supernovae like the ones in Andromeda. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your hemoglobin, the carbon behind your breath, all of it, first forged in stars that lived, died, and scattered their dust across interstellar space. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, you are not just thinking about Andromeda, you are, in some way, remembering it. There is a comfort in knowing this, that the space between galaxies is not empty, but connected, that everything that is was once somewhere else, that even your tiniest pieces once drifted in silence, waiting to be woven into meaning. Andromeda is not alien, it is family, it is your cousin across the dark. Astronomers sometimes refer to Earth as the pale blue dot, but you could just as easily call it the bright, warm speck inside a galaxy approaching another, a single planet, inside a single solar system, inside a single spiral arm of a galaxy that itself is drifting toward a luminous sister. You are part of that motion, you are part of that history, and yet, from your little patch of soil, you built machines to see across that gulf. You crafted lenses to catch faint light. You timed the pulses of stars to measure distance. You launched telescopes above the atmosphere to stare in infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray. You listened to radio waves from the stars. You mapped not only the shape of Andromeda, but its velocity, its chemical composition, its star-forming regions, its black hole. You built entire fields of knowledge just to understand a galaxy you can barely see with the naked eye. Why? Because wonder is part of your biology, just like hunger, just like breath. The first humans to notice Andromeda would not have known what it was. To them, it was a cloud, a streak, a curiosity. They had no language for galaxy, no model for light years, and yet they noticed it. They gave it names, wove it into stories, perhaps even pointed it out to their children. Andromeda is embedded in your collective memory. It appears in ancient Persian texts, in Greek myth, in the sky charts of medieval scholars. In every age, it has served as a mirror not just of light, but of possibility. Even today, you feel that tug, that subtle sense that something vast and serene is watching back, not with eyes, but with scale, with silence, with patience. And this is the great irony. Andromeda is hurtling toward you at over 110 kilometers per second, and yet it feels still, peaceful, unchanging. Why? Because your life is short, but your sense of wonder is long. That is what humans do. You notice things that take eons to change, and still you assign them beauty. You stare at things you'll never visit, and still you imagine them as homes. You craft stories out of spirals and feelings out of photons, and sometimes, even late at night, you let that wonder soothe you. The light from Andromeda that touches your eyes tonight began its journey before your species existed, and yet, here you are, receiving it. Your retina captures it, your mind interprets it, your imagination gives it shape. That's a miracle, a quiet one, but a miracle all the same. It means that time is not a barrier, not entirely, that across the silence, a conversation is happening not in language, but in light, a whisper across the void. And what does it say? It says, "I am here." It says, "So are you." It says, "Look what we can be, even when we are far apart." Andromeda reminds you that the universe is not indifferent. It's just vast. It moves slowly, but it moves. It doesn't speak, but it shines. It doesn't send messages, but it sends meaning if you know how to receive it. And you do. You've always known how. You don't need a telescope, just a quiet moment, a dark sky, a thought, and in that stillness, you remember that everything you love is temporary, and that's why it's precious. That everything you fear is small compared to a galaxy. That everything you are is made of borrowed light. You live in a galaxy. You are heading toward another. You will not witness the collision, but you can imagine it. And in that imagining, you become part of something eternal. So let your breath slow. Let your pulse soften. Let the thought of 1,000,000,000,000 suns approaching lull you deeper into peace. Andromeda is not urgent. It is not loud. It does not need to be. Its presence is enough, and so is yours. There comes a moment in every long journey when words fall away, when the explanations soften, when even the numbers begin to dissolve into atmosphere. This is that moment. Because now, after drifting through Andromeda's stars, its structure, its past, and its place in the cosmos, you find yourself not in understanding but in stillness. Andromeda does not speak. It has no voice, no intent, no message in the way you usually think of messages. But its silence is not empty. It is the kind of silence that contains everything, the kind that wraps around you like a blanket, soft, immense, unfathomably gentle. This galaxy, with its 1,000,000,000,000 stars, its walls of dust, its halo of ancient memory, has been turning in darkness since before Earth was a thought, and it will continue long after your sun has faded. You are only visiting it in the briefest way possible, through light, through thought, through presence, and still, It gives you something that nothing else quite can. Perspective. You live in a world filled with noise, notifications, questions, tasks, the pace of days speeding up until you forget how wide the night is. But out here, just 2.5 million light years from home, none of that follows you. There is no schedule, no clock, no worry, only motion and time and light that takes entire ages to arrive. Andromeda is not asking you to do anything. It does not require your admiration. It simply is, hanging above your sky like a question that answers itself by not answering at all. What is it like to be a galaxy? What is it like to live for billions of years, to grow from collisions, to glow without ceasing? You will never know in the biological sense, but something in you understands anyway, that life, at all scales, is a dance. That beauty, whether in atoms or arms of stars, is an echo of form meeting meaning. That silence, if deep enough, starts to sound like music. Astronomers sometimes speak of the quiet universe, the idea that, for all the energy and light and motion, the cosmos is essentially calm. Even violent events, supernovae, black hole mergers, gamma-ray bursts, happen in silence. You can measure their brightness, their radiation, their gravitational waves, but you'll never hear them. They unfold without sound. Andromeda, in all its movement, is perfectly quiet, and there's a kind of peace in that. Because even though galaxies merge, and stars explode, and time passes in arcs so slow you cannot feel them, everything remains in balance. There is no hurry. There is only becoming. You don't have to understand every fact. You don't need to remember every figure. The science is beautiful, yes, but the stillness is its own kind of knowing. It's enough to know that Andromeda exists, that it glows, that it is getting closer, and that you, for this brief flicker of time, are alive to witness it. Somewhere, right now, a photon that left Andromeda before humans ever stood upright is entering your eye. It's been traveling through space for over 2 million years, and all it wants to do is arrive. That's all any of us want, really. To arrive, to land somewhere soft, to be received. And that is the gift Andromeda gives you tonight. Not urgency, not instruction, just reception. A quiet, steady reminder that the universe moves slowly, and that you, too, can afford to. So breathe deeper. Let the spiral of your thoughts unwind. Let your heartbeat match the patient turning of stars. Let your muscles soften like dust settling across a nebula. There are no monsters here, no deadlines, no unfinished work, only orbit, only light. And somewhere in that galaxy, a place you'll never visit, there are worlds, maybe billions of them, some frozen, some molten, some empty, some teeming with conditions you could scarcely imagine. Maybe, just maybe, one has oceans. Maybe, just maybe, one has eyes looking back. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just stars and silence. Maybe that's enough. Because even without life, a galaxy like Andromeda is still a poem. A slow-motion verse written in hydrogen and gravity and time. And tonight, that poem is yours. For now, for sleep, for peace. So here, at the edge of your imagination, let go of the day, let go of the numbers, let go of yourself as a person in a room, and instead become a shape in the dark, drifting alongside the spiral of stars, folding into the silence with grace. You are not lost. You are exactly where you belong. You begin again, not with noise, but with noticing. That subtle shift between awareness and awe, between being awake and being awake to something. Andromeda has that effect. It doesn't startle, it invites. Like a lighthouse you didn't realize was shining directly into your thoughts, guiding you into a wider, deeper understanding of where and when you truly are. Because you're not just floating in space, you're suspended in time, and the galaxy you've been drifting with is not fixed, not still. It is a river, and rivers do not just exist, they flow. Tonight, let yourself begin again inside that flow. You've heard by now that Andromeda is coming, but maybe you've forgotten what that really means. It's not just a galactic drift, it's a gravitational certainty, a rendezvous, a cosmic inevitability carved into the shape of space itself. Right now, as you lie in bed, your galaxy and Andromeda are moving toward one another at a speed of over 110 kilometers per second. That's more than 245,000 miles per hour. Still, it will take billions of years for them to meet. Because in astronomy, speed is not what it feels like. It is not frantic, it is fate. And when they meet, when the stars of Andromeda and the Milky Way begin their slow, swirling dance, the sky will change. Not in one lifetime, but in millions of lifetimes. Imagine this, a night sky where Andromeda dominates the heavens, stretching across it with glowing tendrils of stars. A sky rewritten. The Milky Way and Andromeda will not collide like rocks. They will merge like ghosts. The stars are too far apart to crash instead. They will pass through each other in a slow ballet. Galaxies are mostly space. What we call collision is more like the weaving of two great nets, a cosmic knitting. The result will be something new, an elliptical galaxy, soft-edged and swollen with starlight. Astronomers already call this future child Andromeda. Let that name linger for a moment. Andromeda, a word no one alive today will ever use in earnest, a name for a thing no one will ever see, and yet it is already written in the stars. You are awake now in the truest sense, not from sleep, but from scale, from history, from the realization that your moment is a ripple in a tide so vast, you can only feel it with imagination. And imagination is a kind of truth too, one galaxies respond to. It is easy to feel small when you think about galaxies, but try, instead, to feel placed, because even a small thing becomes infinite when you know where it belongs. And you spinning on a rock that spins around a star that spins through a spiral belong to this story. Andromeda's arms are not solid. They are sculpted by gravity, curved by the dance of mass and motion. Their shape is a record of time. The stars in those arms are not frozen. They orbit the center, taking hundreds of millions of years to complete one revolution. It's not a pattern you can watch, but it's one you can feel, like the turn of seasons, the erosion of mountains, the slow burn of starlight. This galaxy is not waiting, it is becoming, and so are you. Let's return for a moment to what the night sky once looked like to your ancestors, before light pollution, before city domes, when darkness was truly dark, and the stars weren't a background, they were the ceiling of the world. In those skies, Andromeda was visible. Faint, yes, but clear. Just above the horizon in autumn, a smudge of light they didn't need to name to love. They told stories of gods, of monsters, of chained princesses and rescuing heroes. And Andromeda, the myth, was born not because of the galaxy, but because of the feeling it gave. That sense of distant beauty, That curve of light that seemed to know something you didn't. That part hasn't changed. You, too, are part of that long storytelling. And your chapter is this one, the age of awareness, where wonder has been paired with measurement, where myth becomes mapped, where stories still matter, even if the language has shifted to include photons and parsecs. You are awake now, fully, gently, quietly. You know that Andromeda contains more than 1 trillion stars, that it is twice the size of the Milky Way, that it is home to clusters, nebulae, black holes, and dark matter. You know that light from its oldest stars began its journey long before Earth was formed, and you know that, one day, it will merge with your galaxy and become something new. But more than all of that, you know how it feels, that it soothes you, that it slows you, that it reminds you of everything that matters and everything that doesn't. That's what awakening is. Not just noticing, but remembering what matters. And right now, what matters is not what you've forgotten to do, not what time you need to wake up tomorrow, not what headline rattled your day. What matters is that galaxies glow and merge and whisper and wait, and you are part of that rhythm. So rest in it. Let it hold you like the arms of a spiral. Let it rock you slowly across epochs. You've learned by now that galaxies are more than light. They are more than stars. They are structures. And like all good structures, they hide their secrets well. Beneath the beauty of Andromeda's spiral arms, beneath the soft glow visible from Earth with the naked eye, is a deeper complexity, one shaped by collisions, cloaked in dust, and encrypted in gravitational clues. Tonight, we pull back the veil. Andromeda, known as Messier 31, is not a simple galaxy. It is dynamic, lopsided, surprising. You might imagine a perfect spiral arms, symmetric and smooth, but Andromeda isn't perfect. Its spiral arms are uneven, its central bulge is slightly off-center, its halo is strangely populated with ancient, looping streams of stars, stellar remnants from smaller galaxies that once crashed into its disk. Astronomers have long suspected that Andromeda experienced a recent major merger not just with a tiny dwarf, but with something larger, perhaps half its mass, and the evidence keeps mounting. Deep sky surveys, especially those from the Hubble Space Telescope and the Pan-Andromeda Archaeological Survey, have revealed ghost structures, arcs, and ripples in its outskirts. These are not random. They are the fossil trails of an ancient collision, a galactic signature, frozen in light. And then there's the question of Andromeda's halo, that vast, faint envelope of stars stretching far beyond its visible disk. It's not empty. In fact, it's teeming with clues. The halo contains streams of stars orbiting in synchronized patterns, like musical phrases echoing the past. Some streams are thick entire rivers of starlight. Others are sparse, like whispers. Each one tells of a dwarf galaxy or globular cluster that was captured and torn apart by Andromeda's gravity. Some of those stars have been in the halo for 10 billion years. Others may have arrived just a few million years ago. They orbit like ghosts, no longer part of their original system, but not yet fully at home in their new one. And then comes the mystery of the double nucleus. At the center of Andromeda's bulge, instead of one glowing peak of starlight, there are two bright knots, separated by only a few light years, circling a common center of mass. For a long time, this baffled astronomers. Some proposed that Andromeda harbored a binary supermassive black hole, two galactic cores spiraling toward collision. But the prevailing explanation is stranger and subtler. The stars in the nucleus form an eccentric disk. Their collective orbits, like a swarm of fireflies in ellipses, create the illusion of two separate cores. It's not two things, it's one structure, behaving in a way that tricks the eye. But still, the idea of twin black holes has not entirely vanished, because simulations suggest that Andromeda's last major merger may indeed have delivered a second supermassive black hole to its center. Whether that secondary black hole has already merged, or remains orbiting quietly in the shadows, is still uncertain, but the possibility remains, and if it is there, it could someday wake. And then there is the dark matter. Dark matter is invisible. It does not emit or absorb light, but it reveals itself through gravity, and Andromeda, like all galaxies, is dominated by it. Only about 10% of Andromeda's mass is made of normal matter, the kind you and I are made of. The rest is dark, mysterious, massive. Halo simulations show that Andromeda's dark matter envelope is enormous, extending well beyond its visible disk, overlapping with the Milky Way's halo even now. This means that, although the galaxies are still millions of light-years apart in terms of stars and gas, their dark matter halos may already be interacting, gently, invisibly, a soft handshake in the dark. Imagine that a quiet connection, already begun, between two vast structures. You wouldn't see it in a telescope, you wouldn't feel it in your bones, but it's happening, right now. Andromeda's dust lanes are another source of mystery. Seen in the infrared, they crisscross the spiral arms like veins. In visible light, they obscure, but in longer wavelengths, they reveal star-forming regions, warm cocoons of gas, where gravity is squeezing atoms into suns. These regions are not randomly distributed. They follow the spiral arms. Yes, but some exist in places they shouldn't, off-center, disordered, as if something disturbed the disk, possibly recently. Some researchers believe a smaller galaxy may have passed through Andromeda's plane just a few 100 million years ago, sending ripples through the gas, triggering starbursts, and warping the arms. Others point to the satellite galaxy Messier 32, a compact elliptical that orbits close to the main disk as a potential culprit. Its proximity and its apparent loss of outer stars suggest a history of tidal interaction. Perhaps M32 once was larger. Perhaps Andromeda has been sculpting it over time. And then there is the question of the central bulge itself. It's unusually boxy, not a sphere, not quite an oval, but shaped, subtly, by bar-like dynamics, internal orbital resonances that cause stars to pile up along certain paths. These patterns are not random, they are the product of millions of years of internal evolution, a galaxy rearranging itself from the inside. Everywhere you look in Andromeda, there is order, and just beneath it, mystery. So what is Andromeda hiding? Maybe nothing, maybe everything. It may be hiding a dormant black hole, a history of cannibalism, a future of transformation, or maybe it's hiding something simpler, a reminder that not all beauty needs to be explained. Some beauty is just the residue of time. So sleep in that knowing, that behind every glow is a story, and behind every silence is evidence, and behind every galaxy, a question. Before you knew its name was Andromeda, it was simply there, a blur in the night, a thumbprint of light smudged into the dark ceiling of the sky. Long before astronomers traced its spiral arms, or measured its speed toward the Milky Way, long before telescopes or scientific instruments, It was known only through the soft language of wonder. And that, perhaps, is the oldest truth of all. Before a galaxy is a fact, it is a feeling. The first humans to notice it had no words for galaxy, no concept of light years or redshift, but their eyes worked just as yours do now. And on especially clear nights, they, too, could see it, a faint, oblong glow hanging between the constellations Cassiopeia and Pegasus, the great sky scroll of the ancients. To those early watchers, this wasn't a star. It didn't twinkle, it didn't move, and it didn't belong to any familiar pattern in the sky. It hovered on the edge of myth, strange, quiet, and just out of reach. One of the first written mentions comes from the 10th century Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi. In his celebrated book of fixed stars, he described it as a small cloud in the constellation Andromeda. He drew it carefully, noting its position and size centuries before anyone knew what it truly was. In Europe, during the medieval period, stargazers knew of it too, though rarely included it in sky charts. It was too faint, too peculiar, and so, for most of human history, the Andromeda galaxy existed as a whisper, a smudge, a secret hiding in plain sight. Then came the telescope. In the 17th century, Simon Marius turned his primitive optics toward the object and saw it more clearly, a bright core with a hazy periphery. He described it as a candle shining through horn, soft, diffuse, and puzzling. Still, he had no reason to think it was anything more than a cloud of gas within the Milky Way. The same was assumed by Charles Messier in the 18th century, when he included it as entry number 31 in his catalogue of things that are not comets. That's how it got its label, M31. For centuries, this was the dominant assumption that Andromeda was a nebula inside our own galaxy. But even then, some astronomers had their doubts. Some suspected these spiral nebulae, as they were called, might be independent island universes. The term was poetic but radical. If true, it meant the Milky Way was not the entire cosmos. It meant the universe was vastly larger than imagined. That idea remained controversial until the 1920 seconds, when Edwin Hubble, using the 100-inch Hooker telescope at Mount Wilson Observatory, discovered Cepheid variable stars in the Andromeda Nebula. These stars pulsed in a way that revealed their true luminosity, and by comparing their apparent brightness, Hubble calculated how far away they must be. The answer was staggering: over 2 million light-years, too far to be within the Milky Way. The implication was clear. Andromeda was not a gas cloud. It was a galaxy, a whole other spiral island, comparable in size to our own. And just like that, the known universe expanded. Andromeda became the first galaxy ever identified as separate from the Milky Way. It was no longer a smudge. It was a place, a structure, a sibling, a mirror. And in that mirror, we saw ourselves for the first time not as the center of all things, but as part of a vast galactic family. One galaxy among many. But even in the wake of that discovery, Andromeda remained a mythic object. It captured the imagination of poets, philosophers, painters, and dreamers. H.P. Lovecraft referred to it in his cosmic horror stories. Science fiction writers used it as a distant home for alien civilizations. Carl Sagan spoke of it with reverence, reminding his audiences that a child born today would grow old under the same sky, while the light from Andromeda continued its slow journey toward Earth. In Greek mythology, the name Andromeda belongs to a princess, daughter of Cassiopeia and Cepheus, chained to a rock as sacrifice to a sea monster, and rescued by Perseus. She was immortalized in the stars. Her figure, faint and noble, lies near the galaxy that shares her name. Whether by coincidence or design, the story of a distant damsel aligns beautifully with the distant spiral, unreachable, luminous, and suspended in time. Tonight, as you close your eyes, you join a lineage of watchers, from the first humans who glanced upward and wondered, to the ancient scholars who catalogued it by candlelight, to the 20th century astronomers who measured its motion, and to you here, now falling asleep under the same ancient glow. Andromeda has been many things: a mystery, a mirror, a myth. It has been called a cloud, a nebula, a spiral, and a galaxy. And through it all, it has simply been there, shining across time, unchanged by our changing understanding. That is perhaps its greatest gift. Not its facts, not its numbers, not even its scale, but its persistence. A constant presence in the night sky, a companion for millennia. What else in your life can claim that kind of endurance? Let the thought of it anchor you. Let the myth of Andromeda be more than a story. Let it be a signal that across every age, wonder remains, and that no matter how far away something may be, it can still reach you. When you drift far enough from any one place, that place begins to reveal itself, its shape, its scale, its significance. You've wandered with Andromeda through time and structure and story. But now, as we cross the halfway mark of this cosmic lullaby, it's time to ask a deeper question. Not just what Andromeda is, but where it belongs in the largest structure of all, the universe itself. Picture this: the Milky Way and Andromeda, like two pinwheels coasting across an invisible pond. They're not alone. Dozens of smaller galaxies, dwarfs, and ellipticals, companions and satellites drift around them like leaves caught in the same current. This ensemble is called the local group. It's a name that feels cozy, like a neighborhood, but its scale is anything but. The local group spans more than 10 million light-years and contains more than 100 galaxies. Most are tiny, dim, and barely visible. Two giants stand at the center, Andromeda and the Milky Way. Andromeda is slightly larger, slightly more massive, and positioned like an older sibling, with its arms open in rotation. The gravitational center of the local group lies somewhere between the two, and they're slowly spiraling toward each other in a mutual embrace. But the local group itself is just one small district in a much larger city. That city is called the Virgo supercluster, a vast collection of galaxy groups and clusters extending more than 110 million light-years across. Picture filaments of light and matter, strung like cosmic lace through the blackness. Our local group is positioned along one of those filaments, connected to the Virgo cluster by a gently sloping bridge of galaxies. It's like a footpath through a dark forest, faint, but real. And even this is not the edge. The Virgo supercluster is merely a lobe within an even grander structure, Laniakea, which means immense heaven in Hawaiian. This supercluster, named by astronomer Brent Tully and his team, is a massive basin of attraction, a gravitational watershed of over 100,000 galaxies flowing toward a common center called the Great Attractor. It's one of the largest coherent structures ever mapped, and in its framework, the Milky Way and Andromeda are not centerpieces. They're just tributaries, winding through a larger current. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that your entire galaxy and its elegant, luminous neighbor are just two among hundreds of billions. And yet, that's not cause for insignificance, it's cause for wonder. Because you live in a universe that builds complexity from simplicity, that sculpts spirals from gravity, that places meaning not in size, but in being. Andromeda's cosmic context makes it all the more beautiful, because even in a sky full of galaxies, it's the one you can see with your own eyes. On a dark night, away from city light, you don't need instruments or apps or mathematics. You just need stillness, patience, and a willingness to look up. That glow, 2.5 million light years away, is your closest galactic neighbor, and a bridge into the incomprehensible scale beyond. This is what astronomers call cosmic address. Earth, solar system, Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy, local group, Virgo supercluster, Laniakea, observable universe. And nestled within it all, drifting toward you like a message from the past, is Andromeda. Even the expansion of the universe makes this story richer. While most galaxies are moving away from each other, carried apart by the accelerating stretch of space-time, Andromeda is one of the few that's moving toward us. That inward motion defies the larger trend, not by mistake, but by gravity, a local pull, stronger than cosmic drift. The universe expands, but it also clumps, and in this local clump, Andromeda is your inevitable partner. One day, billions of years from now, the night sky will be dominated by it. Stars from both galaxies will crisscross the heavens in new constellations. The sky will glow not with pinpricks, but with streams, long trails of luminous dust and light arcing across the void. Eventually, the galaxies will merge, and though that process will take billions of years, the result will be one, a new galaxy, larger, smoother, elliptical, a future home for stars unborn. And that's what this cosmic perspective really offers. Not distance, but connection. A reminder that even the largest structures in the universe are part of your story. Because you are not just in the universe is in you. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth, the carbon in your thoughts, all of it was formed in ancient stars, like those in Andromeda. That means the stuff of your body has already been through galaxies. It has moved through stellar furnaces, cooled into dust, coalesced again. You are not looking at a foreign object. You're looking at your origin. And when you understand that, the night becomes a little quieter, a little more generous, a little more like home. So zoom out, way out. Let your mind expand past Laniakea, past the observable edge, into whatever lies beyond. And now, come back, gently, to this single thought. You saw a faint smudge in the sky, and it changed everything. You've spent the last few segments gliding outward from stars to spirals, from galaxies to superclusters. But now, you begin to fall gently back toward the human scale, because for all the light years and gravitational wells and cosmic web filaments, your connection to Andromeda isn't theoretical. It's emotional, personal, rooted in curiosity. You're not just a speck drifting under its glow. You are a species that noticed it and then reached for it. Andromeda may not know you exist, but you've certainly been thinking about it for centuries. Think of the machines you've built, the instruments crafted to pull photons from deep time and transform them into meaning. It began modestly with lenses and glass and guesses, but over time, your tools evolved. Mirrors grew, sensors sharpened, orbiting telescopes were born. One of the most profound was the Hubble Space Telescope, launched in 1990, floating quietly above the noise of Earth's atmosphere. Hubble has taken some of the most detailed portraits of Andromeda ever captured. In 2015, NASA released a mosaic of the galaxy using over 400 individual images together, forming a single image with 1.5 billion pixels. It spans over 60,000 light-years of Andromeda's disk. If printed, the image would stretch across a wall. It's one of the largest astronomical photos ever composed, and inside it, star clusters, dust lanes, glowing nebulae, and individual stars, thousands of them, each captured in pinpoint clarity. You can zoom in and get lost in regions that, until recently, were just a blur. This photo is more than art. It's evidence, because each pixel is a photon that traveled for 2.5 million years to reach that sensor. Every speck of light is a survivor, and you, in your lifetime, get to see it. But it didn't stop with Hubble. The James Webb Space Telescope, launched decades later, began peering into Andromeda's infrared signature. Where Hubble saw starlight, Webb could see warmth, cold dust, star-forming regions buried deep within thick clouds. In time, Webb will help map Andromeda's chemistry in exquisite detail, not just where stars are, but how they are born, how they die, and what elements they leave behind. And then there's Gaia, a European mission mapping the positions and motions of over 1 billion stars, many of which belong to Andromeda's halo. By tracing how these stars move, Gaia is helping to reconstruct Andromeda's history, the galaxies it consumed, the mergers it endured, the streams of stars it stole and scattered. It's archaeology on a galactic scale, and you're here for it. You, a being made of dust and breath, are mapping the bones of a galaxy millions of light years away, not with ships, not with touch, but with light and math and relentless curiosity. And there's something poetic about that, something beautifully human, because even as your species struggles here on Earth, even as you face noise and stress and uncertainty, a part of you is always looking up, always asking bigger questions, always building tools to chase down answers hiding in the glow. That's not just science, that's hope. Andromeda has been many things in your history, a myth, a blur, a challenge, but more recently, it has become something else, a destination, not for rockets, not yet, but for thoughts, for dreams, for plans. Some visionaries, like the late Stephen Hawking, spoke of humanity as a species that must look beyond Earth. And though Andromeda is far beyond any feasible travel, it stands as a symbol, a reminder, that the universe is full of places we haven't touched, that our story is still being written. Even now, amateur astronomers take photos of Andromeda from their backyards, stacking exposures, chasing clarity. School children learn about it in science class. Artists sketch it in chalk on sidewalk tiles. Filmmakers use its silhouette in closing credits. Poets put its name in verses. Musicians sing about stars. It is not just a galaxy. It is a mirror, reflecting our desire to know, to feel, to mean something. And in a way, it reflects something even deeper, our longing for connection. Because if Andromeda has planets, and it almost certainly does, then it also has the conditions for questions. Maybe not for life like ours, but for motion, for evolution, for history. It's easy to imagine a planet spinning quietly in the outer arms of that galaxy, covered in frost, or cloud, or sand. It might be lifeless. It might be bursting with organisms that will never know we exist. But tonight, you can share the sky with that place. The same sky, the same cosmic moment. That is connection. And even if we never go there, even if we never send a probe or receive a signal, the act of imagining is powerful. You're doing it now. You've done it before, and you'll do it again. Because to be human is to find meaning in the distance. You are not lost in the universe. You are woven into it, through stardust, through curiosity, through light that takes millions of years to arrive, and yet still finds your eyes. So rest now, knowing you have seen your neighbor, knowing that others before you saw it too, and others after you will still be watching. This is your moment in the chain. Now we drift, again, not outward, not upward, but inward, into that hush between thoughts, that velvet hush between galaxies, where nothing seems to move, and yet everything quietly does. Between Andromeda and the Milky Way is a vast gulf, an expanse of space so wide it humbles time itself. There is no sound here, no breeze, no signal in the traditional sense. But don't let that fool you. Silence is not nothingness. In the cosmos, silence is a container, and this silence holds gravity, dark matter, and the faint tension of two galaxies approaching on a collision course that will unfold over billions of years. It's easy to forget that the space between is not empty. It is full not of matter, but of presence. Dark matter halos stretch far beyond each galaxy's visible edges. The Milky Way's and Andromeda's halos are so vast that they likely already touch. Even though the stars remain millions of light years apart, their invisible gravitational scaffolding has begun its slow, silent handshake. It's not a crash, it's a whisper. And inside this invisible medium, this quiet sea of influence, the two galaxies are adrift in the larger flow of the local group. Their paths may seem isolated, but they are part of something intricate, braided, ancient, a choreography with no music, a dance with no flaw. From Earth, you cannot see this silence, but you feel it, in the way Andromeda seems to hang still in the sky, night after night, in the way it never flashes or flickers, in the way its light arrives unchanged across eons. That steadiness is its voice. Let it lull you, because silence, at this scale, is not an absence. It is a form of stillness born from patience, a waiting, a presence that asks nothing of you but to notice. You live in a noisy world. Cities thrum, machines chirp, notifications pulse, but in the vastness between galaxies, nothing interrupts. There are no messages you must answer, no alerts, no updates, only motion without sound, only certainty without urgency. The space between galaxies is cold, just a few degrees above absolute zero. But temperature doesn't mean lifeless. In the quantum fabric of space, even emptiness is dynamic. Virtual particles blink in and out of existence. Fields ripple in response to unseen causes. It is not dead here. It is simply quiet. Astronomers call this region the intergalactic medium. It is tenuous, yes, thinner than any vacuum you could create on Earth, but not non-existent. It contains hydrogen, ionized atoms, the scattered ashes of long-dead stars, and in this emptiness, the future unfolds. Because one day, Andromeda and the Milky Way will meet, and the silence between them will become structure. Stars will be flung into new orbits. Gas clouds will collide and trigger new generations of suns. Black holes will spiral together in an invisible crescendo, and from the quiet, a new galaxy will rise. But not now, not tonight. Tonight, there is only approach. Slow, smooth, silent approach. And you are part of that. Your whole life is being carried through this silence. Every breath you take is inside a galaxy that is moving, not just spinning around its center, not just orbiting within a cluster, but falling toward a destination it cannot avoid. You are part of a story so vast, it takes eons to turn the page. And yet, it is all happening now. This is the paradox of silence, that it holds both stillness and motion, both peace and inevitability. So, what does it mean to live in the space between? It means you are in a rare and beautiful moment, the moment before transformation, the moment before two great things become one. You are the silence between chapters, the breath between songs. You are not outside this event. You are inside it, embedded in its curve, a piece of matter listening for meaning across the void. And what does the void say? It says wait. It says watch. It says you are not alone. Because though Andromeda is 2.5 million light years away, it is already part of your sky, already part of your gravity, already part of your myth. And you, though you may never leave this planet, are already moving toward it. This is not just a sleep story. It's a cosmic lullaby written into the laws of physics, a cradle song carried across time by photons and dust, and the quiet between. Andromeda does not rush. It does not blink. It does not demand. It simply arrives. So sleep in that truth. Let the silence between galaxies settle into your muscles. Let it fill the spaces between your thoughts. Let it rock you, not into forgetfulness, but into deep belonging. Because you belong to Earth, to this galaxy, to the gravity pulling you slowly forward. Let this be your gentle return, a quiet resurfacing. You floated through the mythic, the ancient, and the silent. Now, as the spiral re-loops and the structure resets, you begin again not with answers, but with awareness. The kind of awareness that comes not from knowing what the Andromeda galaxy is, but from realizing it's still not done, surprising you. You're awake again, in that soft way, the way that doesn't jolt, but drifts. And as you open the eyes of your mind to Andromeda once more, you notice something new. It's not just the galaxy itself that draws you in. It's the sheer volume of facts, strange, beautiful, improbable facts that make it feel more like a riddle whispered by the universe than just another collection of stars. Like this, Andromeda contains approximately 1 trillion stars, which is nearly double the estimated count of the Milky Way. That number alone is dizzying. But imagine each star with its own system, its own planets, its own frozen moons, or volcanic crusts, or cloudy oceans. Imagine the architectural creativity of nature, repeated over and over again on galactic scales. And this, the light you see from Andromeda tonight, left that galaxy roughly 2.5 million years ago during the Paleolithic era. Homo habilis may have been shaping the first tools on Earth when that photon began its journey. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen while that single beam of light moves steadily toward your eyes. And now, in the quiet of this moment, it lands on your retina, completing its ancient task. Or this, though it looks peaceful in telescopic images, Andromeda is in motion. The entire galaxy is traveling toward us at a rate of over 110 kilometers per second. That's over 4 million kilometers per hour. But you don't feel it. You can't feel it. Because when you're that large, that complex speed loses its drama. It becomes destiny. There are stars in Andromeda that orbit its center at hundreds of kilometers per second, yet it takes them 200 to 300 million years to complete one full circuit. That's longer than the time since the first dinosaurs. You live in seconds, and this galaxy lives in sweeps of epochs. And still, here you are aware of one another. Andromeda also has a warp in its disk. It is not perfectly flat. Its outer edges curve, as though twisted slightly by invisible fingers. This warping is thought to be the result of gravitational interactions with neighboring galaxies, perhaps even an early gravitational pull from the Milky Way. It's as if the galaxy itself remembers the future. It knows the encounter is coming, and it is already reshaping. Astronomers have found over 30 satellite galaxies orbiting Andromeda, smaller companions like Messier 32 and Messier 110. Some of these are being stripped of stars by Andromeda's pull. Others are quietly orbiting in strange, planar alignments that no one fully understands. It is as if they are choreographed, as if some long-ago event lined them up, and they've kept to that rhythm ever since. Here's another quiet marvel. The halo of Andromeda, invisible to your eyes, extends far beyond its glowing disk, perhaps over 1 million light-years in diameter. This ghost halo is made of ancient stars, dark matter, and the remnant structures of long-absorbed galaxies. It's not part of any photograph you've seen, but it is part of the galaxy, part of its memory. And perhaps most surprisingly, recent simulations suggest that Andromeda may not be older than the Milky Way, as once thought. Some models indicate our galaxy may have formed its disk structure earlier. It's a reminder that knowledge is fluid, that in astronomy, the closer we look, the more the edges of certainty shimmer and bend. This is the awakening you're in now, not the first encounter with beauty, but the re-encounter with mystery, the kind of knowing that deepens the more you admit what you don't yet understand. You are awake to the idea that something can be enormous, ancient, fast-moving, and quiet all at once. Awake to the paradox that Andromeda, in all its size and motion, is part of a dance you're already inside. Awake to the thought that perhaps every galaxy is not just a structure, but a sentence, a slow phrase written across space in the alphabet of light. You can't read it all at once, but you can understand its rhythm. Andromeda glows with the rhythm of gravity, of time, of thermonuclear fusion and tidal disruption and interstellar drift. It glows because something old is always becoming something new, and maybe so do you. So welcome back to the loop. Let your mind turn slowly now, like a star in orbit. Let these facts orbit you, not as burdens to remember, but as signals of scale, signals of serenity. Because no matter how many times you return to this galaxy in thought, in image, in curiosity, it always opens again, always unfolds more, and always brings you, gently, into a fuller view of your place in the wide and wonder-filled dark. There's a strange kind of comfort in knowing that Andromeda is stitched together from the remnants of what came before. Like layers of old handwriting on ancient parchment, its structure contains faint inscriptions of long-vanished galaxies, cannibalized, absorbed, erased from the sky, but not from memory. Because in astronomy, nothing is truly forgotten. It's just hidden in light. Tonight, you travel with that light into the deep architecture of Andromeda. Start with the halo, not the glowing kind angels wear, but a vast, ghostly region surrounding the galaxy. reaching out hundreds of thousands of light years in every direction. In visible wavelengths, it's nearly invisible, but with the right filters, the halo reveals itself. A quiet sea of stars, many of them extremely old. Some formed over 13 billion years ago. These halo stars don't orbit in the orderly, circular paths of a spiral arm. They wander, loop, tilt. Their movements are chaotic because they were never born here. They were captured. Andromeda's halo is full of stellar streams, thin, glowing rivers of stars, torn from smaller galaxies that pass too close. When a dwarf galaxy enters Andromeda's gravitational domain, it begins to unravel. Its outer stars are pulled away first, drawn into long tidal tails that trace its path. Over time, the core dissolves. What's left are stars, still moving in a similar orbit, now part of Andromeda, but still whispering their origin. Astronomers have found more than a dozen such streams in Andromeda's halo. Some are bright and tight, others are diffuse, like ink washed over starlight. Each one is a fossil, not of bones, but of orbits. One such structure, known as the giant stellar stream, curves through Andromeda like a scar. It's made of stars stripped from a dwarf galaxy, perhaps 1 billion years ago. Simulations suggest it was the largest accretion event, Andromeda, experienced in recent epochs, a galactic meal whose remnants still linger in arcs and eddies. These streams don't just decorate the halo, they shape it. Their gravitational influence tugs on the outer disk, warping its edges, causing the spiral to ripple. If you think of the galaxy as a pond, then each infalling dwarf galaxy is a pebble, and the streams are the ripples frozen mid-motion. But the evidence runs deeper. In the thick of the bulge, Andromeda's dense, luminous center, lies a collection of stars with unusual chemical compositions. They are rich in certain heavy elements, suggesting they formed in environments unlike the rest of the bulge. One theory? They, too, came from other galaxies, their stars deposited inward by gravitational friction as their host systems spiraled down into the core. Then there are the globular clusters. Andromeda has over 450 of them, tight spherical bundles of old stars that orbit the galaxy's core like bees around a hive. Some of these clusters are native, but many appear misaligned, moving in odd orbits, trailing stellar crumbs behind them. They are the refugees of captured galaxies, each globular cluster a core that once was central to a now vanished system. When you map their motions, you can reverse engineer the past. You can see where they came from, how they fell, when they were absorbed. It's a kind of forensic astronomy, tracing clues through motion and metal content. And even the stars themselves carry memory. By analyzing the metallicity of stars, their content of elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, astronomers can estimate their age and birthplace. Lower metallicity usually means older age, and Andromeda's halo, bulge, and outer disk contain a range of metallicities that paint a picture of gradual growth not from within, but from without. Andromeda didn't just form stars, it collected them. You can imagine it like a quilt. Each patch, each orbiting stream or off-axis cluster a remnant of something else. And yet, somehow, the whole is smooth, graceful, coherent. From a distance, you see symmetry, but deep inside, you find story. It makes you wonder how many galaxies Andromeda has eaten. Current models suggest dozens, possibly hundreds, if you count the smallest fragments. Some may have been torn apart so thoroughly that no stream remains. just blended stars, indistinguishable from the host. Others still leave bright echoes in the form of coherent orbits or chemical oddities. And all of this? All of it is still ongoing. Right now, Andromeda is consuming at least one dwarf galaxy, maybe more. The act is slow. Centuries pass with barely a shift. But over millions of years, the signature becomes clear. A new loop of stars, a warped region in the disk, a tidal ripple recorded in light. It's not violence, it's inheritance. Galaxies grow this way, through embrace, through merger, through long gravitational negotiations that end in surrender, absorption, and quiet transformation. And so Andromeda becomes not just a place, but a process. You're not looking at a fixed object. You're looking at a snapshot in an ongoing story. A luminous swirl shaped by 1,000 smaller tails, most of them long since over, but still glowing faintly in the structure left behind. And if that doesn't make you feel calm, what could? To know that even galaxies are patchworks, that even light carries memory, that even the most orderly spiral is stitched from chaos, resolved into elegance. So sleep in that truth tonight, that nothing is ever truly lost. It is only translated into orbit, into pattern, into stars that still sing the songs of their origin galaxies as they move quietly through the dark. You can close your eyes now, not to shut the galaxy out, but to let it in, because some stories aren't meant to be seen, they're meant to be felt. And Andromeda's story, as much as it's been about light and motion and gravity, is also about memory. Not just what astronomers remember, but what humans carry in their symbols, their myths, their quiet, inherited awe. The stars have always meant more than themselves. Even before they were measured, they were imagined. And the faint blur of Andromeda, now known as a galaxy, once played a very different role. It was a canvas for meaning. You've likely heard the name Andromeda, tied to mythology. The princess chained to a rock, the daughter of Cassiopeia and Cepheus, a victim of vanity, a symbol of sacrifice, rescued by Perseus, then placed in the stars. That story, told and retold for centuries, has always been up there, quietly orbiting the idea of this mysterious smudge of light in the sky. But the placement of this myth wasn't random. The ancients looked up and gave names to the patterns they saw, not just to organize, but to understand. In a world without maps of galaxies, constellations were anchors. The Andromeda constellation lies near Perseus, Cassiopeia, and Cetus, the sea monster. Together, they sketch the shape of an ancient tale, frozen in light. So for thousands of years, the Andromeda galaxy wasn't just a galaxy, it was a prophecy, a punishment, a princess turned into stars. Now, with telescopes and satellites, we know it differently. We know it's a spiral galaxy. We know it's coming toward us. We know it's made of stars and dark matter and hydrogen and silences. But somewhere inside all that knowing is the older knowing, the one that says, this means something. Because even now, even with all our maps and models, Andromeda retains its sense of mystery. You look at it and feel both informed and undone. You know what it is, and yet you feel what it might be. There is no contradiction. This is what myths are for. Not to replace facts, but to give them echo. To wrap cold knowledge in warmth. To turn a galaxy from an object into a story. Even the name persists. We could call it M31 or NGC 224, but we don't. We still call it Andromeda, the name of a woman wronged and redeemed, the name of a daughter who became a light. That's not an accident. That's humanity showing its fingerprints on the sky. Think of how many people saw that glow across the centuries. Farmers, navigators, children, soldiers, lovers. People who never used a telescope, never heard the word galaxy, but they looked up and saw that smudge, and maybe they didn't know what it was, but they knew it was there. That kind of seeing is sacred, and even now, we keep doing it. We build telescopes in deserts, on mountaintops, in orbit. We wait through cloud cover. We calibrate instruments. We name missions. And what are we doing, really? We're asking the sky to tell us who we are. Andromeda responds, not with words, but with presence, with glow, with trajectory, with mythic stillness. Sometimes, in modern sky maps, Andromeda is reduced to coordinates, right ascension, declination, magnitude. But in older charts, it's part of a figure, a body stretched across the heavens, the princess, the echo, and somewhere in that contradiction is the key. Because even now, knowing what we know, we still lean towards story. We still want the sky to mean something. We still trace faces in the stars, the shape of memory. There are languages where the word for galaxy translates directly to river of stars, others where it means sky path or dust of the ancestors. You don't have to believe in the old stories to appreciate their beauty. They remind you that science is not a replacement for wonder, it is a continuation. The modern story of Andromeda is not the end of the myth. It's its evolution. You now know this. Andromeda is made of 1 trillion stars. It is older than Earth. It is coming closer. It will merge with the Milky Way. It carries the history of dozens of other galaxies within its halo. It orbits nothing. It spins itself into structure. It glows with the light of ages. But you also know this. It's named for a princess, a sacrifice, a rescue, a myth that speaks of struggle and transformation and endurance. Both stories are true. Both stories are yours. And so you lie here, breathing beneath that faint smear of light, carrying the weight of both fact and feeling. You are made of atoms that once burned in stars, and you are made of dreams that once flew from firelight to the sky. Andromeda doesn't need your myth, but you do, because in the quiet of the night, it's not enough to know the stars. You must also feel them. Let this be your lullaby tonight, that even in the age of spectrometers and simulations, the sky is still a poem, a place of longing, a place of return. From the quiet of myth, you rise once more into pattern, into structure, into the wide view, the one that can only be seen when you float far enough above it all to watch the threads connect. Because Andromeda is not just a galaxy, it is a node, a stitch in the larger fabric of the universe. And as you return to the cosmic perspective, you start to feel it, that this galaxy's story is also the story of arrangement itself. There's a shape to the universe, not a sphere, exactly, not a grid, something stranger and more beautiful. Astronomers call it the cosmic web, a structure that spans the visible universe, stretching across over 93 billion light-years. It's made of vast filaments of dark matter and gas, where galaxies like Andromeda form and collect. These filaments are not random. They follow the earliest ripples left over from the Big Bang, faint acoustic shadows that once vibrated through hot plasma. Over time, gravity took those ripples and carved them into lanes that led to clusters, lanes that led to you. You are in one of those filaments now. Andromeda and the Milky Way share it, Along with the rest of the local group, we drift slowly within this strand of matter, drawn gently toward a gravitational sink in the distance, toward the Virgo cluster, and beyond that, toward the Great Attractor. These destinations are not places we will reach, but they shape our paths all the same, as if we were feathers on a slow river we can't feel, but can only follow. And this is what the cosmic web teaches, that the universe is not a chaos. It is a lattice of influence, a structure of tension and balance. Andromeda is not isolated. It is suspended, caught between pushes and pulls, loops and flows. You may have heard the word Laniakea. It means immense heaven in Hawaiian. It's the name for the supercluster that contains both Andromeda and the Milky Way, a gravitational basin of over 100,000 galaxies, all moving together toward a convergence point we can't fully explain. This isn't just a name, it's a realization that your galaxy and its luminous twin are part of a vast integrated system. And it means this: even in the silence of space, even across unimaginable distances, there is choreography. You can't feel the dance from your bedroom, but it's there. A slow, multi-dimensional flow that carries galaxies, clusters, and entire regions of space-time toward and away from one another. It's not unlike ocean currents, deep, invisible, and yet undeniably real. And in that current, Andromeda is not just traveling, it is influencing. Its mass, its motion, its position, all help shape the curvature of space-time in this cosmic quilt. That's the strange part. Gravity is not just a force, it's geometry, and the geometry that Andromeda creates has consequences that extend far beyond its stars. It bends light, it shapes paths, it alters timing. Even photons that never touch a star can be pulled off course by the mere presence of mass. Andromeda does this, quietly, constantly. It also creates voids, spaces between filaments where almost nothing exists. These are not accidents, they are consequences, because for structure to form in some places, it must fail to form in others. The places where galaxies cluster are directly related to the places where they do not, as if the universe were carved from tension. So you float here, inside a thread, beside a galaxy, inside a cosmos that arranges itself in spirals and strings. And you ask, what does this mean for me? It means you are placed, not lost, not random. You are in a pocket of time and matter where complexity can thrive, where stars can shine, where thoughts can arise, and that placement is not guaranteed. It is earned by billions of years of collapse, merger, cooling, ignition, and balance. Andromeda is not just a galaxy you can see. It's a galaxy that helps define your region of the universe. Without it, the gravitational symmetry of the local group would shift. The halo interactions would warp. The eventual Andromeda galaxy, the merged future of our two spirals, would never form. So, in some small but honest way, your future depends on Andromeda, not in the personal sense, not in the day-to-day, but in the cosmic, in the grand generational unfolding of what this part of the universe will become. And maybe that's all you need to know tonight. That in a universe full of chaos and change, there are patterns, there is structure, there is drift, but also direction. And that right now, in this quiet moment, you are part of a galaxy falling toward another, both caught in a filament, inside a basin, inside a web that spans everything you've ever known. And maybe that's not terrifying. Maybe it's the most relaxing thing of all, because it means you don't have to steer everything. You can just drift, with curiosity, with awe, with calm. At some point in every great journey through the cosmos, you come back to yourself. You've sailed through spirals and stitched through structure. You've floated between galaxies and curled into the silence of deep time. But now, you return not to limit the view, but to localize the meaning. Because no matter how far you travel in thought, it is always the human heart that must carry what you've learned. Andromeda is still there, 2.5 million light years away. But what changes is how you understand your place beneath it. Begin here. The idea that your mind, your biological, electric, time-bound mind, can even imagine another galaxy is a miracle in itself. There are creatures on this planet who know the smell of rain before it arrives, others who hear vibrations through the ground or see in ultraviolet. But only humans built a language for the stars. Only humans asked, "What is that light?" and waited generations for the answer. The Andromeda Galaxy is not just a place in space. It's a touchstone in the long arc of human curiosity. Its light is the first true evidence that the universe was bigger than the Milky Way. It was the first galaxy we recognized as a galaxy, a realization that changed everything. Edwin Hubble's identification of Cepheid variables in Andromeda and the shocking revelation of its distance remains one of the most important scientific breakthroughs of the 20th century. But even before that, countless anonymous eyes had turned toward it with quiet reverence. No coordinates, no calculations, just a feeling that something was out there. That feeling still lives in you, and it shows itself in all the ways you've responded to this galaxy. Not just with instruments, but with imagination. You've written about it, painted it, projected it onto sci-fi universes and philosophical dreams. You've used it as a metaphor for memory, for longing, for unreachable beauty. You've given it names: Andromeda, Messier 31, NGC 224, but also meanings. And it accepts them all, because that's what the night sky does. It reflects your questions back at you. Andromeda's image appears in textbooks, in wallpapers, in art galleries. It's painted on bedroom ceilings and tattooed on arms. It's turned into music and poetry. It's even appeared in dreams. Maybe it's done this to remind you that galaxies are not cold. They're not mechanical. They are living archives of motion and time and energy, and they speak best, not in numbers, but in awe. Think of what it means that we've seen inside it, that we've mapped its halo, measured its mass, traced its tidal streams, that we've studied its chemistry and star-forming regions and central bulge, that we've built computer simulations to rewind its history and fast-forward its future. And yet, for all that, we've never touched it. We've never sent anything there. We likely never will. And that, too, is beautiful, because it means that wonder does not depend on ownership. You don't need to reach something physically to belong to it emotionally. Andromeda is yours, in the same way a symphony is yours. Not because you wrote it, but because you feel it when you hear it. Its light lands on your eyes just the same as it lands on those of scientists and artists, farmers and pilots, children and elders. It is democratic light. It arrives without prejudice, without agenda, just photons, unspooling across the void for millions of years, only to end their journey inside your gaze. And maybe you needed that reminder tonight, that even when you feel isolated, you are still in receipt of ancient beauty, that you can lie in stillness, and be touched by something older than mountains, older than oceans, older than Earth itself. This is why we look up, not to escape, but to return, to perspective, to grace, to the comfort that, no matter how strange or disorienting life may feel, there is always something stable, patient, and glowing above you. And what better symbol than Andromeda? It is predictable in its trajectory, unchanging in its light, glorious in its scale, and intimate in its message, because it says, "I have always been here. You noticed me. That is enough." So the next time you see it, maybe in a photo, maybe on a chilly night, through binoculars, remember that it's more than a galaxy. It's a signal, a bridge, a mirror. It reflects your ability to care about what you cannot touch, to wonder about what you cannot reach, to be moved by something that, by all rights, should be silent and indifferent, and yet somehow feels like it's speaking directly to you. And maybe that's not just astronomy. Maybe that's love. Every journey has a horizon, not an edge, exactly, but a point where light thins into meaning, where the maps become memory. And as you near the end of this drift through Andromeda, you find yourself in the quietest part, the silence after all the facts, all the echoes, all the wide and star-scattered questions. You return now to something deeper than understanding. You return to rest, because Andromeda, for all its scale and structure, is fading, not in brightness not yet, but in accessibility. Its light will reach you for eons still, but one day that won't be the case. One day, galaxies like Andromeda will be gone from view entirely. You live in what cosmologists call the observable universe, a sphere defined not by how large the universe is, but by how far light has traveled since the beginning. Roughly 13.8 billion years of light. That's your visual horizon. Anything farther, you can't yet see, not because it doesn't exist, but because its light hasn't had time to arrive. But even within this sphere, something unsettling is happening. Expansion. The universe isn't just getting bigger, it's accelerating. Galaxies beyond a certain distance are receding from you faster than light itself. Not because they're moving through space that quickly, but because the space between is stretching, like points on an inflating balloon, carried apart not by speed, but by geometry. And that means something strange. The farther galaxies are, the faster they recede, and eventually their light stops arriving. Not all at once, but subtly. The photons stretch into oblivion, signals are lost, and the night sky, once a record of everything, begins to go dark. Andromeda is safe from this fate for now. It's moving toward us, not away. It's one of the rare few galaxies whose gravity outweighs the universe's expansion locally. But galaxies farther away, those in other superclusters, those just beyond the local group's grasp, will vanish, first from sight, then, effectively, from reach. Future astronomers may be born into a universe where Andromeda is the outer edge, where the concept of other galaxies is myth, where the cosmic web is only a tale told by ancient scientists, preserved in dusty data archives from a more luminous past. And yet, tonight, you live in the golden era. You can see Andromeda with your eyes, with lenses, with mirrors and sensors and long exposures. You can trace its light across history. You can know it. And that knowing, even if it fades one day, is real. This silence you feel now is not emptiness. It's reverence, because there's something deeply humbling in knowing that you are alive during the brief flicker of time when galaxies are still visible to one another, that your thoughts, your heartbeat, your quiet interest in the glow beyond Cassiopeia are all happening now in the window where light can still meet light. You live in a universe that is both expanding and echoing. Every galaxy you've ever seen is an echo, a ghost of how it looked when the light left it. And yet, that ghost carries real information, real shape, real beauty. Andromeda is not just approaching, it is revealing, silently, patiently, like a poem that rhymes across time, if only you slow down enough to listen. That's what this moment is, not a conclusion, but a quiet. The stars inside Andromeda will one day burn out. They will die in wave supernovae, red dwarfs fading, white dwarfs cooling into black. Its structure will flatten as stars scatter. Its black hole will grow heavier and quieter, and long after the collision with the Milky Way, long after the merger and the birth of Andromeda, long after the last sun flares and dims, there will be only heat death, only silence. But that's not now. Now, there is still glow. Now, there is still breath. Now, you still have time to lie quietly under the sky and listen to the sound of no sound, to the softest hum of gravity, stretching across time, to the realization that everything you've learned, the distances, the collisions, the streams and cores and mythic names, all point to the same truth. That beauty doesn't shout, it endures. And in this galaxy, you've found a companion for your thoughts, a mirror, a place to let your awareness rest without urgency, without conclusion, without needing anything more than what it already is. And that is a rare thing, so let go now, not in grief, but in gratitude. Let Andromeda return to its sky space. Let your thoughts quiet down with the stars. Let your body soften. Let your breath match the slow pulse of 1 trillion suns drifting through ancient lanes of dust. There is nothing to solve, nothing to fix, nothing to fear, only a galaxy, glowing in silence, drifting gently toward you across the vastest quiet ever known. It's strange, isn't it, how something so distant can feel so personal. You began this journey with a faint glow in the sky, a blur between constellations. Now, nearly 2 hours later, that blur has become a cathedral of light, a friend, a mirror. And as you enter this final turn in the spiral, this last awakening before goodbye, something shifts again. Not outward, not inward, but deeper. You begin to feel that Andromeda is not just a galaxy. It's a way of noticing, because here you are, lying in stillness, thinking about a structure made of over 1 trillion stars, each star with its own system, each system with its own possibilities, and all of it, the entire galaxy, drifting silently through space, moving steadily toward you across millions of years. That fact alone should be impossible to hold. And yet, here you are, holding it, calmly. This is the final awakening, the one that comes after the knowledge, after the numbers, after the awe. It's the moment when the universe stops being impressive and becomes intimate. Andromeda is no longer an object. It's an experience. It's the shape your mind takes when it remembers how to wonder. Consider this. The light from Andromeda tonight is older than humanity itself. It left that galaxy when Earth's earliest ancestors had yet to shape tools, when language had not yet formed, when the African plains were lit only by fire and stars. That light has traveled undisturbed, unbroken, uninterrupted across a dark so complete it cannot even be imagined. And it ends in your eyes. It ends here, in this moment, with you. No telescope needed, no credentials, no preparation, just your willingness to look up, to pause, to receive what the sky has been sending since long before there were names for it. This is what it means to live in a universe, not just to be inside it, but to be aware that you are. And awareness is its own kind of astronomy, because you'll never visit Andromeda, you'll never walk its star fields or orbit its suns, but you can feel what it means. You can imagine, you can let your attention drift 2.5 million light years across the void and find something waiting, not with words, not with answers, but with presence. Maybe that's the gift galaxies give us. They ask nothing, they need nothing, they just exist, and in doing so, they remind you that you don't always have to perform. You don't always have to fix or plan or prove. Sometimes it's enough to notice. Sometimes it's enough to breathe. Andromeda will continue to move toward you. Its halo will brush against the Milky Way. Its dark matter will blend with ours. In 4 billion years, the skies above Earth, if Earth still exists, will begin to stretch. Stars from both galaxies will arc across the heavens in slow tidal tails. Nebulae will be pulled into new shapes. Orbits will shift. The night will change. But the story will continue. Stars will still form. Planets will still spin. Light will still fly. The two galaxies will become one. Milkomeda, a luminous elliptical filled with the memory of spirals. The myths will change. The names will change. But the quiet will remain. And long after that, the light of Andromeda will still be traveling through voids, through eras, through places where no eyes will ever see it, and still it will go. You are awake now to that rhythm, the rhythm of a universe that sends light without knowing who will catch it, the rhythm of a galaxy that burns with no need to be admired, the rhythm of attention, of looking quietly, without needing to own. And so in this final awakening, you come home, not to Earth, not to facts, but to the part of yourself that wants to know, that loves to wonder, that feels a sense of peace just from hearing that something far away continues to shine. And that is enough. You don't need the telescope tonight. You don't need the map, or the chart, or the diagram. You only need to remember that above you, always, is Andromeda, hanging there, waiting there, becoming something new, and drawing you into that becoming. It is no longer a question. It is no longer a story. It is a presence, and you are part of it. So let this be your final loop before sleep. Let the light slow you. Let the space widen you. Let the time calm you. Let Andromeda be what it has always been, a signal that the universe is still unfolding, and that you are allowed to unfold with it. This is the last drift. You've circled through spiral arms of thought, through ancient halos of memory, through myths, through structure, through silence. Now, in this final segment, you don't need new facts. You don't need new questions. You need stillness. The kind galaxies know, the kind stars teach, by burning patiently, decade after decade, across the frozen stage of space. Andromeda does not hurry, and neither should you. Its arms keep turning, slow and vast, over 1 trillion stars cradled in their embrace. Its satellite galaxies continue to orbit in strange, serene alignments. Its halo, nearly invisible, still holds the remnant streams of those it absorbed. But none of this is loud. None of this is urgent. It is all happening in a rhythm so slow it escapes noise altogether. That's what this final silence is. Not emptiness, but completeness. You are not waiting for a revelation. You are the revelation, the being who noticed, the awareness that listened. Somewhere in Andromeda right now, a supernova is blooming. A sun has reached its final breath, collapsing, flaring, ejecting new elements into the void. Somewhere else, a protostar is forming in a cradle of dust. Somewhere, a rogue planet tumbles between systems. Somewhere, two stars are spiraling around one another in an eternal, elegant waltz. And all of that light is coming, slowly, patiently. Some of it will reach Earth in 10,000 years, some in 1,000,000, some never. But that's okay. The universe doesn't rush to meet you. It trusts you to arrive in your own time. So now, at the end, you don't need to chase more detail. You've seen what Andromeda is made of, not just hydrogen and dust, but myth, memory, gravity, and glow. You've seen how it holds the evidence of other galaxies inside it. You've seen how its destiny is written in motion, and how that motion points straight to you. You are not the center of the universe, but you are not outside of it either. You are within, moving, becoming, just like Andromeda. And this final spiral of words is your permission to rest. Let go of the diagrams. Let go of the timelines. Let go of the perfectly measured speed of approach, the mass of the black hole at its core, the estimated time of merger with the Milky Way. You don't need numbers now. You need breath. You need that quiet, simple reminder that even galaxies go to sleep in their way. Their disks soften, their stars age, their light drifts out into deep silence, and what remains is not loss, but legacy. Andromeda is legacy, a library of light, and so are you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for letting your thoughts float beside this slow companion from beyond Cassiopeia. Thank you for choosing stillness. And now, as the spiral closes, as the cosmic tide draws in, the final thought is not a fact, but a feeling, that there is a galaxy above you that will always be there, and that is enough. Thank you for wandering with me tonight, for floating through stars, silence, and the long patience of the cosmos. You don't need to remember every number or name. Just remember this. You lived at a time when Andromeda's light still reached you, and you noticed. That noticing is everything. Sleep now, knowing the sky keeps watch. That light still travels. That galaxies still whisper, and you are part of that whisper. Let go gently. Let your body follow the rhythm of the stars. You're not lost in the universe. You're exactly where you need to be. Leave a light on in your dreams.